Hello and welcome to the C Team. I'm your host, Mike.
And this is Frank.
We're coming to you a little late because we've had a busy schedule lately, but Frank, why don't you tell us what we're going to talk about?
Well, busy schedule as in, vacation for one of us. And where I was a little thing called Pennsic. First, let me tell you a story about a crazy teenage football lineman who wanted a stick.
I have no idea who this person could possibly be.
Neither do I. I just heard about it on People. So once long ago, there was a 14-year-old on a football team who thought to himself, you know, it would be great if we took our football pads, grabbed some sticks, like some Nerf sticks or whatever they had at the time, and just had a big fight. High school came and went, and he just kind of forgot about it. And then he was walking around Rutgers one day, and lo and behold, hey, those guys are in armor. They're swinging sticks at each other. What is this? I need to know what this is. And those, ladies and gentlemen, were my first steps toward Markland Mercenaries, which would lead me to the Society of Creative Anachronisms. Not acronyms.
Yeah, a little bit of confusion on the name there every once in a while.
Yeah, I thought it was acronyms for the longest time. But anyway, so Society of Creative
Society for Creative Anachronism.
The SCA.
Much easier to say.
Yes. There's a reason why they call us Scadians as opposed to the other word.
Yeah.
It was founded on what it basically is medieval reenactment, and a big part of it is the heavy combat where we get in armor and we hit each other with rattan sticks.
It's a little more complicated than that, probably, but that's the basics.
Yeah, that's the bedrock. Outside of that, there are of course arts and crafts and
archery,
singing.
And not necessarily medieval European either. There's a lot of people who will do like Japanese or Chinese.
Right.
The idea, as I understand it, is you pick a period, you go for that period, and people are very accurate within that period, but as a group, they're not like one centralized thing.
Yeah, Crusaders never fought samurai, for instance.
That we know of.
That we know of. You might get an idea of that if you played the game Knights of the Round, but we're getting off topic. So it began with a graduation party on May Day, 1966, and after some brief fighting and a parade that was a protest against the 20th century, it became known as the Berkeley Society of Creative such and such, and later they would drop the Berkeley, and it was just known as the SCA. And so it celebrated its 50th year last year, and more on that later. So the rules of the fighting of the SCA is, every time I try to describe this to someone, the exchange usually goes along the lines of me asking if they played Bushido Blade, and they never heard of it.
I have played Bushido Blade.
Yes. Mike here is the only one that I know who's actually played Bushido Blade. And it's a shame, because that's the easiest way to explain the rules. You get hit in the arm, you can't use that arm. You get hit in the chest or head, you're dead. Get hit above the knee, you have to go down your knees.
So wherever you get hit, you're out.
Right.
That part is out. And is it mainly duels, or are they battles? What's the setup usually?
Well, you have one-on-one tournaments, but you also have bigger battles. And, varying widely in number, but, two sides, either dead to the man or resurrection battles, basically respawning after a certain point.
So almost like video game multiplayer in some respects. You got a little bit of Overwatch in there. You keep respawning, you build up points. There's probably, a lot of them, fights will have a specific objective, a place you're supposed to invade or defend.
Capture the flag, steal the bacon. And so you had the heavy fighting there. A little later on, though this wasn't at the beginning, we had SCA-style fencing.
Three Musketeers kind of thing going.
Right. Which also comes in armies as well as one-on-one combat. Some slight rule differences, like you could attack from behind a rapier, not like stab them. You put it on their shoulder, and
no actual stabbing is happening at these events.
Right.
You'd have a lot less return customers if you were actually stabbing people.
Right. And so where we are in good old North Jersey is in the East Kingdom. It's made up of several kingdoms, not just in the States, but all over the world. There's even one in Antarctica. Some research, after some research, I discovered.
Was it like 6 guys? It's like in Antarctica, they don't like hockey and they don't have a big enough team, so they just get their science sticks and whack each other.
Possibly, but yeah, Australia. It's pretty big for.
Any place that there's somebody who wants to hit somebody else with a stick, the SCA is there.
Right. So every country in the world. So yeah, we're part of Setmore Swamp. That's north. That's what North Jersey is part of.
Oddly, it's not a swampy area.
Yeah.
You'd think like Florida would be the swamp.
Well, the funny thing is, its symbol is basically a castle post sinking into the ground. Second to the swamp.
Burned down, fell over, then second to the swamp.
So yeah, and the bigger events in the East Kingdom are, of course, 100 Minutes War, basically a resurrection battle that lasts 100 minutes.
That's an hour and 40 minutes for those of us who are terrible at math, like me.
Right. And Mudthaw, which has tournaments which decide champions for Pennsic, and also court meetings like knighting someone. What happened there? Recognition. By the king.
So it's kind of like almost an organizational thing, as much as just whacking people with sticks.
Right. And in order to become a knight, you have to be picked as a squire by another knight, and it's not just fighting. Like I'm specifically a squire in Markland, which works a little bit differently. But I've already basically proven myself combat-wise, but I also get other crafts. Like specifically, I'm working on leather working as part of my requirements, and archery. Not for combat, though we do have archers in combat.
So more of a show and target archery kind of thing.
Basically. So that's the creative. That's the SCA in a nutshell.
So why don't you go over... So this is all building up to something. This episode is not just about the SCA itself, but what Frank was doing over the last week.
Yes. So, Pennsic. As the story goes... All right, first I have to explain that kings are decided usually through a tournament. And these are kings of specific regions. Like, you're not really going to have a king of the entire, SCA. But one day, almost at some 30 years before this passage was written, Cariadoc of the Bow, the king of the Middle, got bored with peace and declared war upon the East. Loser to take Pittsburgh.
That's a little cruel and unusual.
Yes. The king of the East read the declaration of war, filed it away, and forgot about it. Time passed. Cariadoc moved to New York and subsequently became the king of the East, whereupon he retrieved the declaration from the file cabinet and said, "Let's fight." The middle won, and Cariadoc has the distinction of being the only king who declared war upon himself and lost.
That is a distinction.
And thus, Pennsic was born.
So Pennsic is a 2-week festival, sort of like a Renaissance fair writ large.
Possibly. But
it's a camping event where, 10,000 people?
Yeah, so about over 10,000 people each year, sometimes even, I believe the number has reached 15,000, maybe even higher. And these are, in my experience, the biggest battles that have happened that occur during the year.
Like your normal battle will have maybe like 20, 30 guys to a side. Maybe 100 minutes were a couple hundred, and this will have a couple thousand, as I understand it.
Well, if you're worth like 100 minutes war, you're definitely going to get at least 100 on each side. Yeah, a lot of people.
Right, but this is an even higher magnitude at Pennsic, where you've probably got 1,000 people on the field at once.
I've heard that number, being uttered for the field.
So we're talking like filming Braveheart numbers. These like a big melee, maybe Game of Thrones sized.
Oh yeah. Only without as much disturbing bodies everywhere.
And no dragon fire, presumably. Spoilers!
Yeah, spoilers. Spoilers. Someone dies on Game of Thrones.
Someone. It's been by the truckload the last couple of weeks.
I'll like that, the epilogue. Jon Snow survived, and no one was more surprised than he.
Well, Sean Bean didn't make it, which surprised nobody.
Yeah.
That's also spoilers, but for 7 years ago, so get with it.
Yep. So, and these are participants from all over the world. I follow along some people from Australia, for instance. Think of the logistics of that for a second. So, you have steel armor. You're flying that halfway across the world. Getting it through customs there, and then getting it through customs here. I imagine there's an airport in Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah, Pittsburgh or Philadelphia. Pennsylvania's a big state. They got a couple airports.
Right. And having to rent a car and probably a U-Haul trailer or two. Bring it over there, setting up camp. That's... and I believe that's one of the things that just says something about this event. Really is like... there really isn't something I can really compare it to. Like, Olympics comes to mind, but it's not really that either.
It's not that organized. It's not that structured.
Well,
I guess it is structured and organized,
yes.
But it's not like a series of specific games. It's kind of it's a 2-week Renaissance Fair camping trip, but one that, like, as I understand it, to participate, they don't let you in unless you're at least dressed in garb. There's no tourists here.
Well, here's the thing. Each year there are scheduled battles. And, there is a point system, and both sides are actively trying to win. A lot of the points are won through battle. Some it's through archery and arts and crafts. And so, the previous time I came like 2 years ago, basically I had heavy fighting Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. And then in between that, you had your fencing, and I believe also archery competitions. But even around that, you have concerts to go to. Marion of Heatherdale, she's a big name, in there. The Creepy Bard made his first appearance. A lot of you probably don't know that name, but all the Scadians who are listening.
So there are acts and there are other things to do besides wait for the next opportunity to hit somebody with a stick.
Right. One interesting thing I looked at 2 years ago was a class on the Draugr, which Skyrim fans will probably remember as the undead you keep running into in Skyrim. They are actually based on Icelandic undead and the various tales around them. Today this year I learned about Dracula and how he is basically every...
How's he doing these days?
Well, who knows?
Good point. Yes.
I'm
sorry. Go ahead.
But Dracula is essentially every jerk in Game of Thrones rolled up into one person, as I've discovered.
Plus blood drinking.
Yes. Though I wouldn't put that past Game of Thrones either.
Yeah.
So you also have core, again, recognition. And let's see. And the locations have actually varied. They have for the first 5 years, the location actually varied between locations in Pennsylvania and Ohio, even considered West Virginia, a location in West Virginia during one of the years.
So it moved around a bit.
Right, but the sixth location remained. Cooper's Lake Campground in Worth Township in Pennsylvania. That's basically become the permanent location, and it has grown from there.
Almost like a settlement.
Basically. Actually, the ambulances were bought for Pennsic and are donated to the Pittsburgh hospitals. Bless you. Pittsburgh hospitals the other 50 weeks of the year.
So it's something that contributes to the community when it's not happening. You have
Right.
10,000, 15,000 medieval people showing up and camping there for 2 weeks. The town's going to want them to give back in some manner to kind of, not necessarily recompense, but as a courtesy gesture, at least.
Well, it does boost the economy a bit in that area, as you can probably imagine.
It probably does, but I imagine it also kind of makes a mess.
Right, but we've over the year we definitely have contained that quite effectively. We even clean the porta-johns twice a day.
Do the losers have to clean the porta-johns?
No.
Is that how it works?
Nope, they are known as the Knights of Blue Water.
Of course.
Yes.
Better than the Knights of Brown Water.
So
Or Yellow Water.
yeah, it sounds like a mess, but no, it's pretty clean.
Which is surprising, because medieval people were pretty filthy back then. Washing was not a thing.
We are in the modern age, though.
Yeah.
And
So little creature comforts. It's not entirely authentic. There are places with plumbing.
well, we still wear cups.
Yeah, very important.
Yes,
Very important piece of equipment there.
and so yeah, I fought heavy for 2 of the days. I didn't fight for a woods bat.
So what is heavy fighting?
Heavy fighting is when you're in the armor and using rattan sticks.
Okay, so more of your like your Game of Thrones stuff. You're really getting suited up, and really I've attended some of these. I don't participate. I've heard Frank hit people. It sounds like a gunshot going off.
Oh yeah,
I've seen him literally flatten people.
right. Funny story with that. I had a two-handed weapon, and
A two-handed weapon that was like 6 feet long. We're talking Sephiroth's sword, as close as they can get to it.
Right.
And Frank came down on this kid. This kid was bending over to pick something up. It was a steal the bacon thing. This kid, I keep saying kid. He was at least 20s.
yeah,
He
was my age.
He had his head down, and Frank came down on this guy with like the fist of God. If a cartoon anvil had fallen on him, I would not have been more surprised. So they're really hitting each other. This isn't like play fighting, like tag, I got you. This is like you get hit, you know it.
Oh yeah.
Even and that's why they wear like legit plate armor. This isn't coming from someone who has observed. This isn't like cosplay plastic.
No.
This is like steel, boiled leather. This is stuff that is serious heavy armor. When he says heavy, he's talking about 20, 30 pounds of gear on him.
Right, and well, we were still not quite using the steel they used back then. We stainless, a lighter, steel,
More modern steel.
yeah. And I've used, I've actually worn actual like steel chainmail one time for a Renaissance fair, and all you people writing RPG rule books and stuff like that. What makes you think chainmail is light?
It's heavy. It's
it
probably
is.
heavier than. Is it heavier than plate?
I find it much more cumbersome than plate, actually. A good idea in a time with blades. You want to cover in between the plates, but with the thing about chainmail, if you're just going up someone with a baseball bat, you're actually going to exacerbate the pain you're going to get from that baseball bat, because you get hit there. There's a lot of tiny little metal pointy things in that area.
Yeah, it's chainmail is to prevent damage from cuts, but if something big and heavy is hitting you, it's not going to provide any cushion.
Right.
So the heavy fighting is when you're wearing like the really heavy gear, like the stuff that this is your classical like plate armor, stuff that is made to withstand like serious blows with pretty solid weapons. These things are made of wood, but wood still hurts when you get whacked with it.
Right. And I'm also in Markland, and we pad the weapons, but even then, you don't want to go in there without a helmet. But in my defense about getting the guy in the back of the head, he was running forward with his head down. And name me one sport where running forward with your head down is a good idea.
It's never a good idea. No. Scott Stevens proved that pretty successfully in the 90s.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I embrace my inner Jersey whenever I'm in here.
Yeah. So this is pretty serious. You know, I've seen him come back with like welts from where he got hit around the armor or even through the armor. Right. So you said you were doing how many of those battles?
Let's see. I participated in, the first day, if I can remember clearly, was basically...
A lot of blows to the head.
Yeah. Was basically no reses, just, fought to the man. And then it was kind of a weird schedule this year because you usually have like one big event each day. That Monday we had two. So we had that, and then we had a bridge battle where we had to, claim a bridge. I mean, that wasn't a res battle.
Was it an actual bridge, or was it just set up like cones?
Set up through hay bales.
Okay, so what they do is they set up hay bales to simulate the narrow confines of a bridge to kind of push you into almost like a 300 Spartan situation,
basically,
where you have to defend in attack a much smaller area. That's it's easier for the defenders, I presume.
Right. And those battles are particularly fun because that's when they roll out the ballista.
Oh, geez, yeah.
Yeah, so the ballista rules are a little different within than arrows, obviously. If you block an arrow with a shield, that doesn't count for anything. You try to block a ballista, that still counts as
a hit. Yeah. Because this is a siege weapon, and you are not a siege tower.
No. And yeah, so we break those out, and that's when I first saw one group that I would like to talk about called the Two Chucks.
The Two Chucks. Is it two large men named Charles?
No.
Damn.
Their persona are basically barbarian people.
Okay, so what's the Chucks?
The TU Chucks.
Two Chucks. So not two, the number. It's not two people named Chuck.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes a little more sense. So what are the Two Chucks?
Well, they're named after, I believe, and comments, gently correct me if I'm wrong. I believe they're named after a barbarian group in the Gore books. And Gore is a series, I know, great name, is a series of sort of like John Carter, interplanetary romance. Someone gets transported on a planet and punches people.
Kind of a barbarian medieval fantasy thing, but not like on a fantasy world necessarily.
Right. So that's what they're named after.
And we're just getting into the PG aspects of Gore right now.
Yes. So they're a fun group, and the
how many are in the Two Chucks? More than two people we've established, I think.
Right, quite a bit. They have one of the bigger fighting forces, and I'm not really great with just pointing out numbers, but I'd say that they brought at least like 30, 40 people.
Okay, so what we need to do is find a couple guys named Charles, just two guys named Charles, bring them to the next Pennsic as the Two Chucks.
They'll probably try to forget you existed.
But it will be funny, and I bet we can get someone to write a song about it.
If you want to try that.
What was it, the Creepy Bard? The Creepy Bard is not the only musician. There are people who will compose ballads about what happens at these events.
Right.
What was the one woman who was... the one there was a knight in the SCA, one of the first female knights, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember her name
first, but one song that included it was about an incident where someone comes out with a knife and she pulls out a sword.
She's on her way home from either fencing practice or an SCA event. Someone tries to mug her. Yeah. She pulls out a live steel sword, and this guy must not have known. He must not have had any idea what he was getting into.
Yeah,
she didn't stab him or anything, but the mugging was over at that point.
Yeah.
So there is
as the lyrics go, I'll take your 6 and raise you 35.
Yeah, the 6-inch blade versus the 35-inch blade. I think
that's a knife.
They say size doesn't matter, but in that context, yes, it matters.
Reach.
Yeah, reach.
Yeah,
flexibility.
Reach.
So, and there is, as he said, a song. So there are bards who are like writing about the exploits of these people. They take it very well. I'm not going to say they take it completely seriously because there is a lot of silliness involved.
It is something they put a lot of time, and effort into, and they absolutely love what they do. Yeah,
it's a very much a passionate labor of love among all these people.
Absolutely. And the songs are written about Pennsic itself. Leslie Fish.
Famous Filk writer, yes.
Filk writer.
Filk being folk songs that aren't actually folk songs.
Yes. She wrote her least favorite song, Banned from Argo, because everyone requests it.
One of my favorites.
Yes.
Just Google it now, Banned from Argo. Yeah. In fact, we'll put a link in the description to it.
Well, don't put they can look it up themselves. But
So anyway, so you were involved in the heavy battles, but you were also involved in another type of combat.
Yes, the fencing.
Rapier. This is like closer, not quite Olympic fencing, but much lighter weapons. They're not, in heavy armor. It's more just it's about the touching. It's a very touching sport.
It's a thing about heavy combat is you want to give a good blow. You don't want to give the guy concussion, and you kind of rely on a good hit. See, there's something called rhino hiding, which is basically if someone gets a good hit and it goes, nah, I don't count that.
Yeah,
the problem with that is he will then hit him harder.
Yeah, there's a bit of an honor system where there are referees who are kind of there to keep order, but when you've got 30 guys to a side whacking each other, the referee is not going to be able to keep up.
Right.
So
too much. There's just too many going on, and you really have to. Yeah, you really have to. Self-discipline yourself. Yeah.
So there are people who, any sport like this, we play. We went paintballing once, and there were guys who were wiping their outfits out after they got shot. So there are occasionally people who participate in this, and they'll take what should be a kill shot and say, oh no, my armor protected me, that wasn't light enough. Right. As Frank was saying, the solution there is someone will whack them even harder. So it's kind of a self-correcting problem.
Right. So yeah, and rapier doesn't, in fact, they encourage you not, basically just have a stern but light touch. Like, if anyone's seen that one episode from Firefly with the fencing, was it only like a pound of pressure?
Yeah, something like a pound of force to break the skin. So,
so
no one's breaking the skin here. You're not fighting to first blood, but it's enough of a firmness that it's not just an incidental touch, but you're not trying to injure each other, or you're not even trying to hit each other. It's just you're trying to firmly touch each other.
Right.
Sounds a little weirder when I say it.
Right, and so we have big battles with that as well. And I thought it was awkward at first, but ultimately, what kind of helped is I was doing heavy fighting for years. In fact, I was in this back in 2008 when I first started. And, I've been playing a lot of, lines of battle, and it was easy to adjust.
So it was almost like a Dragon Ball Z thing where you take off the heavy armor and you can move a little faster.
Yeah.
Your power level went up.
Yeah. Nudity makes you stronger on this planet. No.
What do you mean, no? I was wrestling wrong?
So, in rapier combat, like, I didn't participate in every one because I was still assembling my gear, and by Friday, I actually went straight from heavy fighting to the rapier battle right afterwards. And some people thought I was nuts, but it was actually a bit of a relief. It, much lighter equipment. Basically, you don't need like heavy armor, but you need something. You
need some kind of padding.
Something thick, something thick enough, around the chest and underneath the armpit. I mean, you still need a fencing mask, obviously, but again, it's not nearly as heavy, and the battles aren't nearly as loud.
So you're still getting hit by like a metal stick.
Yeah,
but it's not like a big club.
Yeah, there is a lot. Having done both, I would definitely say fencing has a bit more finesse. Not that there isn't technique in fencing, because,
you mean there isn't technique in the heavy fighting?
Heavy fighting, right? And but it has developed over time. Like I actually watched a couple of videos of the initial fights in the SCA, and what eventually evolved over the last 50 years is almost like a boxing stance, where you have your shield up. When you have a hit on the knee or below doesn't count for anything. So you get a nice angle with the shield, having your hand up. That can protect you from a lot. With just the head, you have to keep an eye out for. And then the sword arm, basically in a very similar stance. Again, you both fists up, like you're boxing. And something to keep in mind: this is not stage fighting. I've learned a bit of stage fighting. I've volunteered for the Ren Fair. I didn't actually do any fight shows, but a friend of mine showed a few things. And again, stage fighting that's all for show. That's literally the whole point.
Yeah, it's just showy flipping and spinning, and this is you're trying to smack somebody.
Yeah, even before we get to the backflips, broad strokes, do it for the audience, and the difference is SCA fight you don't swing your entire arm at him. It's definitely more like a punch where. You punch forward, and it's your wrist and hand that bring the sword down. So
there is technique. It's not just kind of like whack the other guy. You have to whack him correctly, or he's going to whack you first.
Right, and this fencing is from a tradition of hundreds of years. This is actually developed over the last 50, which I always thought was interesting. And they've actually done things where people criticize them, like, oh, that wouldn't actually, kill somebody. And they actually test the technique with a sharpened sword and, ballistics gel. Went right through. So,
yeah, like Anara Sarah says in Firefly, again, 1 pound. The creepy things we learn watching these shows.
Hey, if nothing went wrong, we wouldn't have fiction.
Probably, but yeah. So rapier combat is the more not more stylized, but more technique based.
Yes.
It's a lighter combat because you're not wearing the heavy armor. The weapons are not huge. You don't have the big surfboard shield.
You actually do have big shields. They don't allow that for like one-on-one tournaments for obvious reasons. But
yeah, you'd be there forever.
Yeah. That was probably the most daunting thing. Is like I have my rapier and that guy has a big shield and. And I just in my head I was like, oh come on, what's that shield doing here? And so I do have a shield, so I'll try to get certified for authorized for that.
Okay,
but yeah, in order to fight for the SCA, if anyone's interested, you do have to train a bit. You get authorized, to do heavy fighting, which is easy for me because I did Markland, before I did the SCA, so I knew a lot of the rules, even if some of the rules are different. Fencing, I basically learned from scratch. Like I had a foundation in combat, but other than that, I really had to learn from scratch, and it took me. Started in January. It took me about 7 months.
So some significant training you had to do. This isn't something you could just walk into, grab the sword, swish it around, and your Errol Flynn.
Yes. It's mostly safety is concerned. They want to make sure you aren't going to try to actually run someone through.
That's generally frowned upon, yes.
Yes. And safety and also for the maintenance of the swords. And of course, technique. And of course, footwork. Very
important.
The worst injuries, believe it or not, the worst injuries from the SCA are not from the blows. They're usually because of a lack of footing. or loss of footing.
Yeah, someone trips, rolls, breaks an ankle or something.
Right. There's one point where someone had dislocated shoulder because he had a shield and something got caught while he was falling.
So this is like any other sport. There's a pretty solid risk of injury. I mean, you do a lot to mitigate. You wear the armor, you do the technique, but it's I'm not going to say dangerous, but it's like with any contact sport. Right. So this isn't a namby-pamby thing. This is a serious thing for serious people who want to dress up in armor and smack each other with sticks.
Yeah. And, as far as the heavy armor, honestly, I find it more flexible than football pads. See, the thing about football pads is you're mainly, because you have those, big shoulders. And, you're not really expected to have your arms all the way up. This armor, you're expected to move your arm all
full
over the
range
place.
Of motion, yeah.
Yeah, full range of motion.
So you were saying that, okay, so this was Pennsic 46 this year.
Yes.
So I guess they're doing some things for the 50-year anniversary.
Right. The organization, this being 2017, is actually 51, but they made a 50-year tapestry that got finished this year. It took... It's 50 panels, and it took 7 years of solid hours of work to make. And I looked at a few photographs. Photographs is actually pretty impressive. I didn't get a chance to see it in person. Again, running around, fighting, doing other things. Yeah,
it's a busy week.
Right. And the one time I actually decided to go and seek it out, the site was closed.
On Tuesdays.
So 50 years as of last year, and just taking it into perspective. So this is Pennsic 46. Mm-hmm. 5 years later, they had Pennsic, and this is something that started in California. It is now worldwide. Obviously, it wasn't a 10,000 participant event at first, but
it grew.
But just the fact, before internet, before a lot of things, you had an organization that spread from California all the way to what makes up the East Kingdom.
That is a lot of word of mouth. Yeah.
Yes, a lot of word of mouth. As someone who's now 2017, I can't imagine organizing something just through letters.
Yeah, phone calls. They had phones at that time, too.
Right, but, I guess word of mouth would be the biggest thing.
Yeah, it started as an organization. It just grew for outside the original circle, and just like anything else. I wonder how much, room they're going to need over the next few years. I presume it's going to keep growing. Because people get involved, they have kids, they get involved, they bring their friends in. So it's something that is going to keep growing, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
Right.
I would go, except I need more than one outfit, I presume, for the week.
Yeah.
It's going to stink by the end.
Well, get yourself, a tunic, a belt. Unless he's a complete jerk, they really won't, harass you. Mm-hmm. But it's considered at least polite to try.
They don't want you in jeans and a t-shirt.
Right. Honestly, get a long enough tunic, wear shorts. Yeah, that's period.
There you go.
Just wearing the tunic. Yeah, pull a link.
So Pennsic, look it up. It's pretty interesting, all this stuff. If I had more time, I would get into it. More time and more money.
It is a time-consuming thing. Like, some people have hunting. This is my outdoor sport, only I hunt the deadliest game of all.
Well, it's hunting you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not so much hunting because you're facing each other. It's more just like fighting.
Right.
Okay. So, I guess it's going to be kind of a shorter one this week.
Yeah, I mean, we're both back from vacation. This is kind of just my thing, and I'm kind of at the advantage, and I can't really think of anything else he's done that.
Yeah, I haven't. I like Renaissance fairs. And I will be at the Pennsylvania Renaissance Fair as not a participant, but I will be there at some point, dressed as Prince William of the Curled Isles from my book. Buy my book, please.
Plug.
Yeah, I'll plug it any chance I get. So, okay, I guess we're going to sign off. This is Mike Curley.
I just want to point out that I was going to put stuff about Renaissance fairs, but I think that deserves its own.
Yeah, we can go into Renaissance Fair. Well, we'll do an episode after we go to a Renaissance Fair.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm Mike Curley.
This is Frank Curley. And to all my Scadians, hi. You have the things printed out?
Oh, yeah. Professional.